Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 20th regular meeting of Council. The City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. The first item of business this evening is the minutes of the Council meeting held November 6, 2017. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Salter, seconded by Councillor Beale. Are there any errors or omissions? All those in favour? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried. The next item of business is tonight's agenda. That the November 20th Council meeting agenda be approved. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Burden, Councillor Salter. Are there any errors or omissions? All those in favour? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried. We have one delegation tonight. We don't have quantity, but we have quality. And it's the Central Vancouver Island Job Opportunities Building Society Career Centre Services. So we have Cheryl Dill and Diana Jolly, and who are going to make a presentation. And you have 10 minutes because we've got a big agenda tonight.
Can you hear us through this? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Your Worship and Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I just wish we had more audience members and folks here to listen to what we have to say, which is really interesting stuff. I will say thank you for the introduction. My name is Cheryl Dill, and I am the Executive Director for Central Vancouver Island Job Opportunities Building Society. And on the screen you see a number of logos. So I just want to tell you a little bit about this, and our presentation is going to be talking about what we do at Central Vancouver Island Job Opportunities Building Society. So a lot of people don't realize that this society exists in this community because you may know us better as the Career Center. But guess what? We've been around since 1976. So 41 years of service. And what is it that we do? Well, I've got our mission up here on the page, and I see that we're kind of, this screen may just have shifted my PowerPoint a little bit just because I think I was using a wider screen, so apologies if anything gets cut off. I'll do my best to explain. But our mission at CVI Jobs is to focus on employment-related services to benefit job seekers and employers. So it's really about focusing on unemployment, people who are unemployed or underemployed, and helping employers and making that match. We focus on social and economic development. A lot of people don't realize what it is that we do, and so tonight we want to clarify that if you have any questions around it. But some people don't realize we're a not-for-profit society and we're a charitable society. So we maintain that status every year. And we have 4 purposes. We serve job seekers who are unemployed or underemployed. We serve employers and we work with community partners. We have local labor market expertise, and we build upon that. We research the local labor market and share that information. And we help to fill gaps with learning opportunities. And we're going to tell you all about that tonight. So the first thing is that we have a major contract with the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. They just underwent a name change, as you're probably familiar with that. We've been in this contract delivery since April of 2012. So we're in year 6 of 7 years of this contract. And that allows us to put this sign up that we're a Work BC Employment Services Center. So through the Career Center, we offer this employment services. And our contract with the ministry ends March 31st, 2019. So there's a variety of services involved in the employment program of BC. We're one of 73 employment services centers in the province. So we're serving those who need support with employment. You may have been to our facility. We're just off Weld Street, the corner of Weld Street and the Island Highway in the Seaview Center, in that building that a lot of people get lost in. We have the lower floor, and we also operate a couple of spaces on the upper floor, on the 3rd floor. And we have a resource room where people can come in as self-serve job seekers and maybe they want to build their resume and work with someone to support them on that and do some job searching right in our resource room center. We have 3 classrooms. This is the smallest of the 3. And in those classrooms, we develop workshops or deliver workshops. And we also have a computer lab in which we offer a variety of workshops, including building some basic computer skills. The Employment BC is a real expansive program, really, really expansive, and it has all kinds of eligibility criteria, all kinds of services that we're eligible to provide to job seekers as long as they qualify for certain programs. And what we do in turn is we build a government. That's how we get paid for our work. Some of the long-term interventions that I want to highlight are these 3. One is training. You may have heard people go, I went back to school and I got some supports through the Career Center for that training that I went through. A lot of people are doing this these days, and in fact, we have had an increase in requests for training. So we set up training agreements, and what we do is those job seekers come in and meet with an employment consultant. If they've exhausted their job search and they're saying, look, I just want to have a career shift, I'm not finding work, I'm finding that I don't have the skills in this particular area, I want to go back to school. If they have been on EI or they're currently in receipt of EI, they're eligible for some training supports. Same with self-employment and wage subsidy. These 3 interventions here are the longer-term ones, longer-term meaning that they take a lot of time, and they're also quite an investment financially in terms of ministry dollars through us to job seekers, and I'll tell you about that in a second. If training is not where they go, some people say, I've had this business idea and I really want to move that forward. I've exhausted my job search elsewhere and I just want to be my own employer. Then we can provide people with living supports to top up their EI while they're in receipt of those EI funds to receive some training and business plan training. So then the 3rd thing is wage subsidy, and Diana's going to tell you about that, but this also involves a commitment with employers.
So wage subsidies are a great resource because they assist job seekers get the training and experience they need to maintain sustainable employment in our region. And since 2012, we've signed 109 wage subsidy agreements and have provided almost $600,000 to local employers to offset their training costs. And the percentage of agreements that we write that result in sustainable employment is over 60%. And now this is sustainable employment. I look back, and in the last 3 years, the average wage of a wage subsidy is $16 an hour. And one example of a success coming out of a wage subsidy is a job seeker came to us. He had no certifications in the trades, wanted to get in a trade, found a local bakery that was willing to hire him and train him through a wage subsidy, and now he has opened his own bakery. So it's a full circle. So wage subsidies are a great program. Other services that we provide employers are free job posting service on our website. We host small employer workshops for Small Business Week. In October, we have our annual hiring fair in the spring to support employers with their hiring needs. And we recently updated our employer toolkit that provides a lot of information for employers with their recruitments. And this and more services can be found on our website, thecareercenter.org.
And I apologize, I didn't introduce Diana, but Diana is our Employment Services Coordinator, and she works really closely. Excellent. Yes, there's a picture of Diana in that annual report. And so she works really closely with employers to understand their needs and also with job seekers. So she is often she puts the puzzle together between the two. And she does an excellent job with wage subsidy. I meet with other Employment Services Center on the island, and I have to say that our wage subsidy stats are really high in comparison to other Employment Services Centers. So that's thanks to Diana's good work. So you can see we invest quite a bit to employers, but I also want to talk about some other stats. So locally, provincially, You may have seen these stats before on the WorkBC website, so www.workbc.ca. There's information on there about provincial labour market statistics. There's almost 4 million population in BC. Of that, the eligible labour force is 2.5 million-ish. And what we find is 132,000 at present are unemployed. And so those are the people that we're targeting to work with. Right now, we're experiencing a really low unemployment rate. It's the lowest it's been in a number of years. It's 4.9%. You know, it's been hovering at around 6, 6.1, 5.7 in the last few years. But on the island, it's even lower at 4.6%. So what does that mean? Well, I just wanted to bring that locally to your attention. Diana mentioned that we offer job posting services. It's really well used. I want to show you this graph here. This graph shows you the blue are job seekers that have been coming into our office since 2012 under the EPBC program. The orange bars are the number of jobs that we've posted on our websites. And as you can see, they're both going in the opposite direction. We are seeing fewer job seekers coming in this area to needing services, but we're seeing an increase in jobs. We've had a slight dip in the amount of jobs available in this region, but they're opposite. So we're at a really difficult position for employers and for us to support job seekers, but we're doing the best we can with our staff expertise. We are seeing job seekers that have more barriers to employment than we've seen before. And we are noticing that employers need positions filled that maybe some of these job seekers are not matching into. So we're enhancing some of our disability service to clients, enhancing job customization and job development services. And but one of the things that Diana notes is that some of the things that employers need, as in specific skills, are just not found here locally. We cannot find job seekers that have particular skills that employers are looking for. So it's a difficult match, but it is reflective of that low unemployment rate as well. Something that I want to leave you with that's really interesting is that since 2012, our office has provided $3.3 million to local job seekers. This is cash. Local job seekers, as well as some organizations that support those job seekers. So it might be public post-secondary, it might be private post-secondary through training. We're also giving that back in transportation support, so we're paying for gas, we're paying for taxis, we're paying for bus. We're also paying through leveraging that money from the government childcare services since 2012. We're putting clothing on people that need specific clothing for job starts. They need hard, steel-toed boots and a Visi vest. We're paying for all that, serving Oceanside clothing here. We're paying for self-employment support, so we're topping up their EI while they're doing some training on business development. We're also paying for things like disability-related support. So if you have a disability and you need assistive technology, you need some accommodation in the workplace, we're paying for those services as well. Finally, the largest block that you see there, a piece of the pie, I should say, are funds for job seekers. So if you're in school, we're topping up your living supports and we're paying you cash for those to make the market basket measures, that measurement that job seekers need. So this is a lot of money going back into this community in one way, shape, or form. And I wanted to put a dollar value to that so you can appreciate what kind of work an Employment Services Center does in this community. And much of that tuition fund stays in this area. A lot of people train on the island, and there are some job seekers who have trained off island, but a lot of these funds stay on. Something that Diane's going to talk about are some additional government initiatives through the EPBC program.
Right. So community and employer partnerships, they increase employment employment opportunities through community partnerships. And a couple I wanted to touch on today are job creation partnerships, JCPs, and local labor market partnerships, LMPs. So job creation partnerships provide funding to local organizations for projects in the community. So not only do they benefit the community, but they provide job seekers valuable work experience. And one that is about to start in December is through Oceanside Building Learning Together and their Makerspace program. Another partnership is LMPs, and they support organizations to research and address labor market issues. And currently we're working with the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce to put together a request for proposal to analyze and look at the skills and labor market gaps in our local region.
So we're looking forward to that. And speaking of gaps, you may have heard of some of the programs that we offer in addition to EPBC. So you probably heard about Blade Runners. I've been talking about that for the last few years. We receive money through the Ministry of Jobs, Tourism and Skill Training for that, as well as the Regional District's Northern Community Economic Development Fund. So we've been so grateful for that support in order to deliver these services through youth. We've had over 55 youth come through our programs, our Blade Runners programs. I'm really happy to report that 62% of those youth are still working in their jobs. That's really incredible when you think that a lot of those youth have been on the streets, they've been couch surfing, they've had no employment whatsoever. So we're really proud of that stat. Another program that we offered just last year, because we know that there's such a gap in the hospitality service industry, and this wasn't just for youth, but it was called Ready, Set, Work. It's a service excellence training, and that program has really high results in terms of sustainable employment. So we've got lots of those 12 participants who are still working in service industry. And it's higher than 62%. I did the stats the other day, and I can't remember the specifics, so my apologies, but we had really great results with that program. And today, we just launched this program. We're incredibly proud of it. It's Good Seeds. New program. It's with federal funding, and it's targeting youth. And when I say youth, we're talking about between 16 years of age and 30. And so we have 10 participants that started today. Everyone showed up, and they're going to be with us for the next 9 weeks of classroom and community training. They're going to local farms. They're going to get hands-on training, and they're going to support various initiatives in this community related to sustainable agriculture. They'll have 4 months of work in the sustainable agriculture industry. We've got employers signed up to support these individuals, and they will also get a wage subsidy. And this is funding that's not EPBC funding. We have other programs as well. The tutoring program you've heard about, that's been in this community for 27 years, and we're hosting that program and supporting those two employees, and they work with over 65 volunteers to support tutoring individuals that have literacy issues. So that's another program that's part of where we operate. This picture here shows the staff. We had a team day, and we were in the community park and blowing off some steam and having fun together. We are a great group of people that have lots of expertise. We've heard from Diana today. We've got 6 employment consultants. We've got 2 people working in the resource room. We've got youth specialists. We have a lot of passion to make people benefit from that expertise in this community. So I'm really proud to work with this group of people. What's next? This is where we need your support. I'm going to be asking for a letter of support in the coming months, because the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction will come out with a new call for proposals in 2018. And we're going to be working madly for probably 3 months on our proposal submission, and we really hope to be the organization that's serving this catchment again for the employment services. So with that, I'll just close my presentation saying thank you on behalf of Central Vancouver Island Job Opportunities Building Society, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the excellent job that you and your organization do. I have a few questions, but I'm going to go to council first. Members of council, we have questions for the delegation. Councillor Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, so with the Good Seeds Agriculture, that one really interests me. Who's going to be training in the classroom?
Yeah. So, very interesting program. We have expertise in-house in working with youth and understanding how to work with youth with barriers. So we have Colleen Dykeslag, who is our youth employment specialist, that's facilitating in the background and also working with the students outside of the classroom. And we have Katie Singleton, who also works with us to support those youth and helping them with their job search, and Diana also works with the employers to support these youth. In addition to our staff, we bring in experts to provide all the certificate training. the kind of certificates such as, you know, food safe, first aid, what else are we doing? Traffic control, WMIS, all of those. So we bring expertise that have the ability to train and provide those certifications. But related to farming, we have experts who are sharing their skills. You know Janet Toney. She has been working really closely with us, with Coombs Farmers Institute and local farmers for identifying the local expertise and sharing about how to grow food, what are some of the sustainability issues related to agriculture, what are some of the food safety issues when growing in a commercial operation. So we've got people who are working successfully in the industry already coming to share their time and skills with these youth and teaching them about how to operate a commercial operation. We know that there's a lot to learn, and they're not going to learn everything in 9 weeks for this kind of a program, but we're planting the seeds. Sorry for the pun. We're trying to plant the seeds to teach them about some of the things they need to think about and what kind of jobs are available, what it takes to operate commercially in sustainable agriculture, and where the jobs are to support those farmers. So we want to see them working at entry level in these farms, and when we did the interview process, we made it very clear that that's what we're supporting, and that's what we need to see if you're going to participate in this program, that that's where you want to work and to support these farmers.
So, a little bit. Yeah, and I do have a follow-up. So I'm wondering about the farms then. I'm assuming they're going to be going out to farms and getting some hands-on out there.
You bet.
And so there's machinery. Will they be learning how to operate the machinery, learning how to manage on the farms? Are the farms, where are the farms? Because it's not a lot in Parksville.
They are local, so do you know Sam Picard? There's Sam Picard. His farm, he has offered for that site to be some hands-on learning. Now, they're not going to be getting on equipment like tractors or anything like that. We're managing the risk that way. We've got Ken LaCroix, who used to deliver a lot of work safe training for when I used to work at BYLAWS. I used to hire him all the time. He's working with the students from the work safe perspective and providing chainsaw safety as well to them. So they are going to be working with some hand tools, some power tools. We also hired an expert in the field of carpentry to work with the students to give them some basic hand tools, some power tool skills training for 6 days. They're also going to do a couple of projects. They're going to learn how to mend fences and actually plant fencing posts. So they're doing some entry-level type of hands-on training, but we're really going to manage the risk in terms of what kind of equipment they use. We don't envision them getting on any farming equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Any other members of council have any questions? Sue? Councillor Powell, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for coming. You're right. I wasn't aware of how much you do in the community, and I'm really appreciative of it. I do have a couple of questions. So when you talked about employment, what types of employment? Did you have a breakdown of what the employment was? And do you also have a breakdown of wages? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Are you talking about wage subsidy that we were talking about? What
No, I'm talking about employment, types of employment, and the wages that they walk into once they've completed the program.
Oh, you're still with this Good Seeds program?
No, across the board, sorry.
So we see, first of all, what we are aware of in the community and what we see on our job posting site from an employer perspective, probably 80% of the jobs in this community are hospitality service related jobs. And so, when we did that local search with employers, we were finding that the majority of people were saying that the jobs that are available will be focused in that field. So we do see job seekers coming in that want jobs in general, but they may not want to work in that field. So what we're finding right now is that there's an abundance of those types of jobs, but we have job seekers that are not interested in working in that field. Plus, what they're telling us is that they can't necessarily sustain a living by working in jobs that are in the hospitality field if they're a single individual or they have children, and they're challenged that way. It's not always the case across the board in the hospitality field. What we're hearing from employers is that they're increasing their rates, especially the employers that are, you know, unique to this region, that they're increasing their hourly rates, and they're looking at different types of incentives to offer to employees who work with them, more than just above and beyond their hourly wage. One of the skills gap that we see is that there's a lot of job seekers that come to us saying, I want to work in an office environment, provide administrative support. And what we're finding is that there's not enough jobs in that field for people who are A, either experienced in that field, or B, they go to local, you know, public post-secondary for training in office administration, and there's no jobs here for them. So we're seeing a gap in that area. Anything else you wanted to comment on, Di? One of the things that we also found is that employers who require labor-related skills, such as carpentry, engineering, sheet metal, mechanics, is that they're struggling to find people that have, first of all, Red Seal type of trades. Red Seal trades may not stay locally, although we do see that there's quite a bit of employment related to the carpentry field, home building, and all of the things that are related to that. But we are finding that contractors are struggling to find the certified type of people that they need locally. So that is a bit of a gap that we're finding. We're happy to hear that VIU is getting more seats for trades programs, but there's not enough graduates coming to work in this region. That's what we're finding. Does that answer your question? Oh, yeah.
Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have two questions. One, well, first of all, I want to say thanks for the presentation, because it really is very interesting to see all the programs that you have going. And I've been seeing the little notices around the good seat, and I didn't fully understand it, so thank you for explaining it. One thing that I notice is that some of the programs that provide support, let's say for training and so on, are available for those who are collecting EI or on EI. Are there any sorts of supports for someone who may be in a very low-paying field or in an area that's really not working for them, and they would like to get some sort of training in another areas? Or is there anything available for folks in those situations through your office?
That's an excellent question, and we get that quite often. And one of the things that I noticed in coming to the Career Center a few years ago is that we ourselves had a bit of a gap in what we delivered as an organization, and that's why this screen here showing a couple additional programs, that's why we are offering and diversifying some of the things that we do through our society. It's because there are gaps. The EPBC program is a terrific program, but the eligibility for people who may be not on EI to subscribe to those programs is low. And so these types of programs that you see on your screen, Ready, Set, Work, that was open to a variety of ages for people that are not on EI or have not had one of those claims in the past, so and have challenges with, you know, moving forward, have some barriers to employment. So to take this program, it wasn't one of those programs where you have to have had an EI claim or be actively on EI. So all of these programs that you see before you are for people who are not EI, not in receipt of those benefits. Now, what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of feedback to the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction saying that the restrictions that they put on their programs in terms of eligibility are too narrow. And so what we've been hearing is that their plans in 2018 are to increase those eligibility requirements to open up funding for more than just EI recipients. And so we're really happy to hear about that. But we do know that the province is still in negotiations with the labor market transfer agreements with the feds, and that those negotiations have not yet been complete. But we understand that the eligibility is widening.
Thank you. That's great. That's great information. My second question relates also to the gaps that you're showing and that there are more jobs available than there are job seekers. And perhaps your crystal ball isn't polished well, but, you know, assuming that that trend could continue and our area is growing and it's a beautiful area, is there any thought to working with immigration groups or others to look at other ways that we might attract people here who do have skills and might need a little bit of a boost to get to that point? So I was just curious about the immigration question.
That's an excellent question. The Central Vancouver Island Multicultural Society, we have a close working relationship with them. They're one of our subcontractors, in fact. So if we have immigrants who need some employment services, we subcontract with them to provide that training. I think the way we work together needs to be improved, because what happens is if someone comes to us, then we refer to the Central Vancouver Island Multicultural Society, but if they go directly to that society, then we never see them, and they should be referred back to us. And so I think we have a bit of a gap in operation there. But in addition to working with immigrants, and that's one group that we can work with, we also, as I said earlier, spend a lot of time in speaking and working with our other subcontractor, who's VIVRS, Vancouver Island Vocational Rehabilitation Services, to work with individuals who have disabilities, and working with employers to look at how can we customize jobs, how can we look at that job, Mr. Employer or Mrs. Employer, that you're looking at, and tweak it slightly so that we can widen your group of job seekers that would be eligible for that work. So that's an area there, as well as looking at the retirement population who are not really wanting to retire or ready to retire fully, and looking at programs to provide them with skills and training to re-enter the workforce and work with employers, and working with employers to look at how they can attract people who may be older workers. And so we've been doing a lot of work in the last couple of years and working with employers and job seekers in that. And we're waiting to hear back from the ministry, because we put another Ready, Set, Work training proposal together in the summer, and we're waiting to hear back because it's targeting 55 plus. And we worked really closely with employers on putting that proposal together. So.
Okay, anybody else before I go back to Councillor Salter? Anybody else have any members of council? May I go and ask a question before you? I'll come back to you. Thank you. Anyway, I'm the mayor. A couple of comments from me. What's going to happen before March 31st, 2019? You're proposing, obviously, you want to stay operating beyond that. So what kind of hoops are you going to have to jump through to get to that stage?
Right. So the timeline looks like this. We anticipate the call for proposals coming out February, March, with a submission date probably April, May. We don't know. The ministry can't reveal anything yet, probably until the LMTA negotiations are complete. So say that the submission is May, we anticipate hearing early fall whether or not we're successful, so that's fall of 2018. We will know whether we're a successful proponent, and then can, prepare for the delivery for April 1st of 2019. Depending on that news, if it's negative news, then we have to make some significant decisions around what happens with our society. But we're really hopeful that we're going to be building on our 41 years of success and moving forward, delivering employment services in this region.
And the letters of support, you've already asked the city for one, I believe. We've sent you a letter of support for that. Anything else we can do, let us know.
Well, we haven't yet asked for support for this particular call for proposals.
So you'll be doing that?
Well, we'd love to, yeah.
Great.
And we'd really appreciate your support.
Okay. I want to come back to the gap business again, the gap between the availability of jobs and the lack of availability of workers. And you've listed a number of things that you've done. What about liaising with the high schools and the universities with regards to how they're training? Have you been giving them an idea, or has that already been covered? But are you giving them an idea of what's required so that they can produce help in some ways to fill these gaps?
Yeah. Locally, there hasn't been a lot of interaction with Vancouver Island University, although I think the willingness is there. I think there's just some unrest or some unclarity as to what will happen here in this community. But from a region, in terms of VIU, I know that there are staff there that are really keen to listen, but we're not the only providers of that information. There's GT Hiring in Nanaimo who also provide lots of good data, and they're saying the similar thing that we're seeing here with this type of statistic. I just went to a meeting about 3 weeks ago it's called the Contractors Solutions Team, and we compared this kind of information. Everybody's seeing the same thing. There are fewer jobs, but even fewer job seekers, and there's a mismatch there. The job seekers are a little bit more heavily barriered, and we have to look at how we support them in different ways.
I was just thinking to add to that, if we do get if the Chamber of Commerce and in partnership with us and other partners get funding for the labor market partnership, then we will be able, or that proposal will be able to do more of a analysis of that gap, and then and with the future being to speak with those training providers.
Yeah. We would want in that partnership that we spoke about with the Parksville District Chamber of Commerce, one of the key aspects of that partnership is that there's a stakeholder group, and we've just been in discussion with the Chamber of Commerce. The stakeholder group includes Vancouver Island University and City of Parksville, Town of Qualicum Beach, and those types of organizations that can provide some solid input.
Councillor Beal. Councillor Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So two things. I do have a question, but I could also make a motion for the letter if we need to do that. I don't know if we need to or not.
At this point it is, and I'll have more specifics, but probably February, yeah.
So I'll just ask my question then. So I'm wondering, with regard to the jobs and the job seekers, and especially folks who are involved in the tourism industry, are you finding a struggle for folks who are trying to find housing and then live in the city? And because if they don't live in the city, how are they supposed to get to work without a vehicle? So I can see that there could be some. Are you finding there's issues with housing and our job seekers and then getting those jobs?
Absolutely. Our employment consultants work one-on-one with job seekers, and they hear about the challenges that they specifically have. I mean, we work with job seekers who are in our catchment area. So for the most part, if we see people coming in, they're living here. Now, we are seeing more and more of those job seekers struggling with those accommodations if they have accommodations. So some of the people are coming in and they're couch surfing, don't have solid living arrangements, or they're in housing and they're struggling because there's a significant change coming due to landlord changes, sales, all of those kind of things, rent increases. I mean, you've all heard the same thing. I can say as well what we're experiencing here, we've seen it elsewhere on the island with other employment services centers. So we recognize that this game between trying to match job seekers and employers is very convoluted because it involves things like that, and that is the homelessness and the struggle to have sustainable housing. Yeah.
Any further questions from members of council? Thank you very much. We'll look forward to working with you as time goes by. I think March 31st, 2019 isn't that very far away.
Yeah, that's true.
As you well know. Okay, thanks again. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for all that you do. Pretty important. You'd think that if you have more jobs than you've got people, that's kind of a good thing, or it's sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. Anyway, we'll be looking forward to hearing more updates from you.
Okay. We'll be happy to do that. Okay, members of council, the next item we have on the agenda
is the consideration of a development permit to facilitate a self-storage building at 1164 Franklin Gull Road. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendations. Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Salter. Mr. Russell, could we please give us the background on this issue?
Sure, if it may, Your Worship. For council consideration this evening is issuance of a development permit for the subject property at 1164 Franklin Gulls Road. It is for basically a building was already approved under a prior development permit. The applicant has had great success with their development and is seeking to now build a larger version of the same building. Stylistically, it's the same as the other buildings on the property, and the rest is detailed in the staff report.
Any questions for Mr. Russell? Seeing no questions, I'm going to call the vote on the two items that I can take together. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. The next item we have, Council, is the Board of Variance membership. And before I ask Mrs. Weeks to give us a background on this, I need a mover and a seconder for the two recommendations. Moved by Councillor Beale, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Mrs. Weeks, would you please give us the background on this issue?
Yes, so the purpose of this report is to receive council approval to utilize and appoint 3 members of the RDN's Board of Variance as City of Parksville Board of Variance members. When the RDN would still advertise for new members when their terms expires, and appointment to the RDN's Board of Variance would occur with the understanding that members would also be appointed separately to the City of Parkville's Board of Variance. So this would not be a joint Board of Variance, but a separate one. So appointing the same members will help maintain the interest of the board, as the RDN has an active board with regular applications. The recommendation as per the agenda.
Questions for Mrs. Weeks? Councillor Burton.
Just a couple of things. I think we had a background on this not that long ago with regard to our difficulty to recruit people, and I understand that part of it. Will there be what's the possibility of local content? We don't have any control over that, right? Okay.
Your question was again what?
I'm looking, hopefully, that some of the Board of Variance members for the regional district will come from Parksville area, but we don't have any control over that, is my question.
Mrs. Weeks.
If I may, Your Worship, so it would still be, the same members, but if any applications came from any of City of Parksville, like within our boundaries, like that would still go through our board. It would just be in the RDN. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One more. How many Board of Variance, what is the rate of requests that have to go to a Board of Variance from Parksville? I know we see the odd one, but doesn't seem to be very many.
Who can answer that question?
Through Your Worship, we haven't received any requests since 2012, or we haven't considered any requests since 2012. In 2012, we had 2. It does vary. In 2011, we had 2 applications. In 2008, we had 2, but it does vary.
Any further questions? I'm sorry, Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Your Worship. And so, since I've been on council, I know it's been a struggle to find people to sit on the variance board, and so I think this is a pretty creative solution, and thanks.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of the recommendations? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried. Okay. Now we have one bylaw. I want to make sure I've got the right page here. We have one bylaw for final adoption. And that final adoption is the bylaw offense notice enforcement amendment bylaw 2017 number 1486.7. I have one recommendation. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Beale. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. All right. Moving right along, I've got some items for new business, and then I'll go around for other members of council. First of all, the single-use plastic bag survey is underway. The survey is on the city's website until November 30th. Encourage everybody to give us some feedback on that. And Councillor Burton, you'll be giving us some feedback, or somebody will be giving us some feedback on the survey that the Chamber has done with regard to plastic bags, right, at some point in time?
I'd be happy to provide that.
Thank you. Cancellation of the November 21st council meeting. The budget meeting originally scheduled for this Tuesday, November 21st, has been canceled and is no longer required. The next regular meeting of council will take place on Monday, December the 4th. On December the 4th, we'll be going over the Community Park Master Plan. Vancouver Island University students will present the final version of the Community Park Master Plan for council's consideration. Very important meeting. I hope that you can attend either through the live screening or in person. And we have the RDN Recreation Services Master Plan Open House, which is on Wednesday night. It's from 5:30 to 7:30 at Oceanside Place. I hope you'll all attend. I know I intend to be there. It's some very interesting things going on with this community, this RDN Recreation Services Master Plan. Fairly key. And we all heard the other day from our folks in the soccer business that they're having their troubles. So who knows, that might come up. And finally, at the end of this week, on November the 24th at 5:30, we're going to be lighting up the Christmas tree. Christmas is only a month away after the 24th. Yes, 24th, that's right. New Year, Christmas Eve is the 24th.
That's right.
I'm right? Tell me I'm right.
You're right.
So I hope you'll all be there at the Sequoia tree on Morrison Avenue. And more of information is available on the PDBA website at parksvilledowntown.ca. So that does it for me, and I'm going to go around the table. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. You already touched on the RDN Master Plan, one of the groups that I work with. And last week they had a meeting, and they also had a presentation to athletes in our area that have gone on to some of our summer and winter games and other areas in the province and have been awarded medals. So it's a nice little presentation and everything here as well. So that was last week. Met with the BYLAWS Interact and Liaison as their liaison and youth group, and making some headway about having some of our youth come before council on a fairly regular basis, quarterly throughout the year. They met with our CAO, Debbie Comas, about some different projects that they might like to contribute and be a part of in our community. So really looking forward to that. And amazing students. They're working on a trip for Nicaragua, one group of them. Another group has worked with some baked goods and homeless baking and to the Salvation Army. So lots of things going on there. And I unfortunately had to miss the Oceanside Development and Construction Association meeting due to a personal appointment. So I'm waiting on a couple things that we didn't get the announcement that we were hoping for in regards to small development housing and some funding, but hopefully in the future there might be coming down the roads. And the other two, I think my other councillors will touch base on.
I did attend the ODCA meeting. Mr. Malcolm Naughton was the guest speaker, and it was an interesting meeting. There are some things that aren't announced yet, but they're waiting for an announcement from the federal government, probably just before Christmas. So we'll wait for that. But Mr. McNaughton went over all of the different programs that they have, and there's an assisted home ownership plan that's available, and a number of things. So we'll. I think we might invite Mr. McNaughton to come and speak to us at some point in time. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Worship. The one I was going to talk about, you already took the light up on Friday. So go down there, the big tree, the sequoia tree will have nice bright lights this year, so I'm looking forward to that.
And they'll be colored. Sure. Okay. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, and I guess if the weather report is true, I might need to bring my umbrella to that event, right? Speaking of which, over the weekend it was very wet Sunday, but that did not stop many people in the community from their generosity in donating foodstuffs and also money, which is very helpful for the food bank. The Parksville Volunteer Fire Department food drive was over the weekend, so I had the pleasure of being out there Saturday afternoon, so I got to avoid the rain, but it was really great to see the response by the community for that event. I've attended the Oceanside Task Force on Homelessness, and that group is continuing to work very well, both behind the scenes and with other agencies that are, for instance, running the cold weather shelter, which has opened up mid-month, and very appreciative of the Arbutus Church for offering that space. Also working hard to minimize or eliminate redundancies in terms of services in the area, and working closely with a number of people who are into market housing but continuing to need some support to be successful in that arena. Also, I had the pleasure of attending the OWN forum recently. That's the Oceanside Health and Wellness Network, and that was held in Qualicum Beach I don't remember the date, but it was called Charting the Course Forward, and involved many people from many different agencies throughout the Oceanside area, a really wide range of services, school district, building, Inclusion Parksville, the RCMP, Health and Wellness, Mental Health Association, many people coming together to focus on what is presently available and where the gaps are, both particularly for child wellness and food security for school-age children, and also mental health for especially young adults. There will be a follow-up forum for the even larger community in February, so that will be something to watch for, and everyone will be invited to attend. I've also attended the Oceanside Community Arts Council recently, and there's some information in the newspaper that the Tiny Trees Festival will be once again taking place this year, and if anyone is inspired to decorate a tiny tree and contribute that to the event between November 25th and 29th, they can be dropped off at the MAC, that's the Macmillan Arts Center, and people are welcome to come and see them and also bid on them between December 9th and 19th, I believe. Also, the OCAC is putting a call out for people, additional people to join the board if people are interested, and again, you can go to the website or stop by the MAC to get more information. And finally, I recently attended an RDN meeting, the inaugural meeting, so that was interesting for me to be there. And there were some delegations, including the OWN network, made a presentation, but also some presentations on mapping air quality, not only in our community, but in other communities. So there's a pilot project that may be coming on board. So it's still a little bit nebulous, would you agree? But some very interesting information there, and also Dr. Hasselback spoke on the topic. So very interesting delegations.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Beal. Interesting report. Councillor Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to mention that I did attend an evening out with our two new doctors in Parksville from the Wells Street Clinic, and some councillors, Councillor Patterson was there, Councillor Powell, and you, Mr. Mayor. And it was a nice evening, and I was really pleased to have the opportunity to meet with them and welcome them to our city. And then on Saturday, I attended the AGM at the Parksville District Historical Society, and it was a good meeting. It was lively, and they have now elected a new board, And I'm confident that the new board, there's some new people there, and there's some people who have been on the board before, so they can sort of help, keep it on an even keel and sort of move forward. So I'm very confident they're going to work well together now, and I think they're going to work towards creating a really good gathering place for our community and for our residents. So I'm really looking forward to working with this new board, and I wish them all the best.
Thank you. You're being very modest. I got an email that I sent to all the members of council from the coordinator for the new doctors, and the doctors were very pleased with meeting the councillors that were at that meeting that night. So they said a lot of nice things about councillors being involved and knowing what was going on. So congratulations on that. Councillor Burton.
Sorry, I missed the introduction to the doctors. I was busy spending money at Ducks Unlimited. I attended the District 69 Parks and Rec Community Master Plan draft unveiling. I'm looking forward to attending the community input session of that on Wednesday night, and would encourage the rest of council to spend some time there. You've announced the Wednesday at 5:30. I had the pleasure of attending a business opening, the Parksville Fine Art and Music Academy, located next to Parks West on Hearst. I think we're all familiar with the building. It's got good tenants in it now, and I'm looking forward to them having a long-standing relationship in the business community. And I think that's probably about it for me.
More to come. Stay tuned. Yeah. Okay. Council, we've reached that point where I need a mover and a seconder for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Salter, seconded by Councillor Beale. I gather everybody's unanimous. We're adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you on the